and gentlemen. This is Meng He from KETV, broadcasting from Beijing. Breaking news tonight. The death toll of the rape of Nanking has climbed now over to 300,000 civilians. Throughout the past few months, more than 750,000 Chinese from surrounding areas fled into Nanking, fleeing from the invading Japanese armies. This intensified the continuing Second Sino-Japanese War. Just last month, the Japanese army advanced towards Nanking from different directions and soon captured the city. Here's Guangjing, live in Nanking.
Thank you, Ming. As you can see, there is an air of despair and desolation heavy over the skies of Nanking tonight. There have been reports that up to 20,000 women have been raped and many more dehumanized, tortured, and murdered in cold blood. With me is civilian Li Park, a mere 17-year-old, who is now one of the victims of the Nanking massacre. Ni hao, Li.
Hello, sir.
Please tell us your harrowing story.
I was born and raised in Nanking. My father died when I was very young. I don't remember him at all. His brother and his family came to support my mother and I. As long as I can remember, my mother was the only one I had. She was always looking out for me. Well, about 2 weeks ago, the Japanese troops came to Nanking. It was terrifying. My mother told me not to go outside, but the Japanese troops were quickly approaching the village. Everywhere they went, they looted and conducted mass executions, leaving behind a trail of devastation. No matter how I tried to hide myself from the foreigners, they would always jeer at me and make obscene gestures. A week ago, a Japanese officer pounded on my door. My mother told me to hide, and she answered the door. The officer looked around, demanded her valuables, but she refused to comply. This made him visibly agitated, and he shot her 4 times in the stomach.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well, at the time, I was scared. I guess I must have screamed in terror. The officer whipped his head around and saw me cowering in the cupboard. He stormed over and grabbed my arm and pushed me on the floor.
It's okay, it's over now.
Well, I tried to resist, but he just beat me until I was bleeding and could struggle no more. After he raped me, he just laughed, spat on the floor, and left without a word. I was left on the floor by myself, still bleeding from his beating. My mother, the only person in my life, was dead by my side. My home was looted, food was strewn on the floor, lamps and furniture smashed. I had nothing left. There was nothing for me to do. All I knew was hopelessness.
Now that is truly heartbreaking. I thank you for sharing your story. I know it must be painful to recall. What worse is there are 20,000 other stories just like Lee's. The past few weeks have been filled with violence and grief. My heart goes out to you, Nanking victims. And back to you, Ming in Beijing.
Thank you, Guang, and thank you, Li, too, for telling us your story. Despite this, the Japanese continue to deny these allegations of violence. Here with us is Japanese officer Kishimoto Kawai and Chinese politician Huang Sun. Welcome, Officer Kawai. And Mr. Sun. Officer Kawai, why don't you tell us your perspective on the events at Nanking?
They say we raped 20,000 women. The number is nowhere near that many. I will not deny that there are some corrupt soldiers in the Japanese military, like the civilian Li Park said. They say there have been 300,000 that have died. Again, this is a slanderous number. We have done no such thing.
And Mr. Sun, what do you have to say to this?
Officer Kawai is sadly mistaken. I respect him as a person, but the destruction left behind by the Japanese troops is undeniable. He may not at this time be aware of the degree of the events that have taken place, but a simple glance around Nanking reveals how the Japanese have completely devastated the Chinese people in their raids. Homes are destroyed, innocent civilians are killed, women raped, children left without anyone to care for them.
I do not deny there have been circumstances in which some soldiers have taken advantage of civilian weakness, but you claim that this is much more serious than it actually is. You are merely exaggerating the truth.
I have done no such thing. You need only to walk out in the street and ask the first person you see if they have seen firsthand the destruction of the Japanese. Everyone has been affected somehow. The 300,000 people killed is probably only a fraction of the real number.
Thank you both for your time. This is Ming He with KETV, reporting on the rape of Nanking. Now stay tuned for the Peking Opera.
Go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Nanking from KET.
Judgment report statutory. With me is civilian.
Welcome, Officer Kawhi. And Mr. Sun. Officer Kwai, why don't you tell us your perspective on the events at Nanking?
I think these claims made against us are atrocious. Yes, we... Can't read that. I think these claims made against us are atrocious. Yes, we invaded Nanking, but we didn't commit any of those dreadful crimes that we're accused of. They say we pillaged every house in the area, but we did no such thing. Of course. Move your hand. But you claim that this is...
Thank you both for your time. This has been Ming Ho.